Sac passe. Mabule, Mabule. You are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports' Order. Yes, Mr. Logical.
You're
2-5.
in the building.
And I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all just gonna have to deal with it because we got to talk about Colorado too. And then we're gonna talk about the week that was in college football because everybody, including myself, said it was gonna be the whack weekend. I ain't saying it was great, but it wasn't whack. Then we're going to get into the NFL, some recaps. You know, we had the 2 Monday night games last night. Got 2 Monday night games coming up next week. And then we're going to get into those 0-2 teams. Which 0-2 team can turn it around? And speaking of turning it around, Mr. Logical. So I was sitting here and I was thinking about how my mama raised me, and how I should take off my hat and my sunglasses and all that good stuff like that. And then I started thinking that with everything good, there's a bad and an ugly.
Absolutely.
As much as you love somebody, sometimes they can hit your nerve. You don't necessarily hate them, but it's like, I don't like you as much as I love you. So when I'm looking at Coach Prime, who I absolutely love, because I got to say that before I say what I'm about to say, because I know once I start saying what I'm about to say, people are going to say that I said things that I did not say. So I love Deion, even beyond the Florida State stuff. Like, Deion is just that guy. His charisma wins you over when he listens, you speak. But that right there lies in the problem. As great as he is when he speaks, not everybody's feeling the message. So, we're getting into that Barack Obama area where any criticism, any criticism of Deion,
We 2 minutes 30 seconds in. Man, I mean, 2 minutes is 2-5, y'all. This is 2-5, y'all. Let's go. I didn't hear this yet.
Every criticism of Deion is racism. Everybody that criticizes Deion don't want to see a black man prosper. Now, I know there's some of that out there. I also think that if you don't support Colorado or if you're not on board with the train, you're not an Uncle Tom. We all got our own opinions. We all got our own thoughts, our own, methodologies and all that kind of stuff. I've been going to Colorado games way before Prime ever stepped on campus. So I'm in. But this is the thing. You're talking to 18 to 22-year-old kids, talking about how personal it is. You say things like, and I know Deion didn't mean it in the way that some people probably took it, when he was saying, it was just going to be a battle for Colorado. But now it's personal. We was just going to go out there and we working hard. We was just going to go play a football game. But now it's personal. So now I know that Deion wasn't trying to start anything, but there's a certain tone that comes with your words, and you can't control how the people or person hearing what you said interprets that or takes that. So you got this dumbass out here that hits Travis Hunter after the play, and I shouldn't call him a dumbass. I mean, he's a kid, relatively speaking, so that's a little strong, but he shouldn't have did what he did, point blank. Lacerated a guy's liver allegedly. He's out for a few weeks, Heisman candidate, all this kind of stuff. Even if he wasn't a Heisman candidate, still not right. But you're talking about teenagers and dudes that are just coming out of teenagehood and trying to set a tone. Like you watched the Gator documentary, right? Some of that?
Yeah, Major Wright.
Yeah, Major Wright. People celebrate that. He was trying to set the tone. Well, I mean, it was, but I just mean
it's clearly pass interference.
But I just mean the hit in general.
He did the hit on purpose, but
But people
His hit was
celebrate that.
clean. His hit was
No,
clean.
it was, but it was still
This was
unnecessary.
pass interference. Yeah.
It was still unnecessary, but he was trying to set a tone. I don't think that this guy, the safety from Colorado State, I don't think his intention was, I'm going to put Travis Hunter in the hospital. You know,
No, but that's the thing. But that's the thing. If you purposely hit somebody late, then the outcome is connected to whatever your premeditation was. Even if you try to claim it wasn't, it's like, okay, you saw the ball hit the ground and you hit him anyway. So you know when the ball hits the ground, you know he didn't catch the pass. You know everybody hits the brakes.
Right.
You deliberately accelerated. So he has to be he has to be held accountable.
Definitely.
His action.
I'm not saying that. And
it has to be considered that you deliberately did that. Like, no, so your intention was to hurt him because you deliberately hit him purposely late. So your intention was to hurt him. Your intention wasn't to send the message. Your intention was to hurt because like if it's like a quarterback is in the pocket and he lets the ball go and he stands there. He's a player. He's on the field and he has his pads on, but he's done with that play. He let the ball go. And you cheap shot him in the back.
Yeah, until he blindsides you on a block.
But it's the same thing. So like this is going to be. It was deliberate.
I just don't. What I don't like. Real quick. What I don't like is I don't like reacting to the reaction. So like like when Dylan Brooks hurt Gary Payton. It was a dirty play. But it was dirty before Gary Payton got injured. I don't like the reacting to the, he's injured and now we're going to go like, so it was already wrong when he hit Travis Hunter, regardless of what Travis Hunter's subsequent injuries were going to be.
Yeah.
But I think people are just focusing on the injury alone. And not,
I think people are in on a hit just because it was so deliberate. One thing is like if it's across the middle and it's the quote unquote quintessential bang bang play.
Right.
He goes up for the ball, you go to separate him from the ball and you hit him, but he has the ball on his hands when you hit him.
Right.
That you could say like it's dirty. Like the way Ryan Clark used to blow people up when they're in the middle of the field.
Oh yeah, he did.
In the early 2000s when he was out there knocking people's heads off. But this guy from Colorado State, he saw the ball hit the ground. He loaded up and hit him in his chest. So that's why it's people react in the same way. I'm surprised he didn't get ejected, but I guess
he should have been. Sure. Yes, he should have.
I don't know what the rule is. I know the targeting rule is associated with the helmet.
Right.
I don't think late
and all
hits.
That, yeah.
I don't think late hits get you ejected.
No, only if you get two of them, because you get the first unsportsmanlike conduct, and then if you get a second one, you get ejected.
And that depends on how you penalize it. If they penalize it as unsportsmanlike conduct,
I just feel.
But if it's like unnecessary roughness, I don't think that has a quota.
I just
because
feel
you can get a face mask. You can get 2 or 3 face masks and not get kicked out of the game.
Well, it depends on if they refer to it. Yeah, if they call it unsportsmanlike. Yeah,
unsportsmanlike dead ball.
Right.
Penalty, which should have been because the ball was dead.
Right. It was way dead, and that's where. So that's where, like for me, I think the whole thing leading up to it, his actions are his actions. He's responsible for his actions. I'm just trying to think of it from the standpoint of
those flames were stoked by the personalities of the head coaches,
right? And not just Dion, and Jay Norvell, but ESPN and everybody else. It was literally like, "Hey, Colorado's got a game. Colorado." Like apparently they were playing themselves. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of CSU dudes were just like, "Yo, we here too." Like, we're going to make them talk about us.
I feel you on that, but that happens every week for every team.
I know, but everybody doesn't react the same way. Everybody doesn't react the same way.
Go out there and deliberately
you're right,
throw cheap shots.
But it's just like we talked about.
I get the accountability piece for the coaches. Like, listen, you guys got to keep it under control. I don't like the pre-game stretching where both teams are out there at the same time. If you know it's charged up, but it's TV. It's unscripted reality TV, and I get that, and we're going to toe the line because I'm not going to front. Sometimes I can be very boring, even on vacation. I can just be very boring. I don't really do the exciting stuff. I'm like, listen, I'm here to chill, look at some buildings, take some pictures, have some drinks. Like, I get that I can, but some people push it to the limit, and sometimes you do that. And if you're in the entertainment world, i.e., college sports, ESPN, Fox, all these other, and you're trying to galvanize viewership because you're paying out these massive TV contracts, you need a team west of the Mississippi that you can put on at noon or put on at 10. Because it was 10 o'clock when that game came on here.
Mm-hmm.
It went off at, I think I went to sleep at 2:30.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was texting you like, man, I can't wait to go to sleep because I thought the game was over when they were down 11.
Yeah, everybody was texting me like, yo, how do y'all do this? Like,
yeah. So like, I remember when I first came back from Utah back to the East Coast, and I was watching Monday Night Football, and at halftime it was like 10 o'clock. I was like, oh no, I can't. Boop, I had to turn that off because Utah is only 8:15. I can watch the rest of the game. So they need teams besides USC and UCLA and like west of out in these mountains that can drive that early morning viewership and get people ready. Because you keep in mind, college game day was like 7 o'clock in the morning. Their game wasn't until 8 o'clock at night, mountain time. So they had to get people from their dorms or campuses or frat houses, sororities, or whatever the case may be, to come out and do the thing with The Rock and Pat McAfee and the heads and all the fans.
I wonder how Miami feels about The Rock right now.
Oh, because he's wearing a Colorado.
It's like, yo, you one of us. Like, give us this promotion, But no,
I mean, like, Kawhi was at the game. He went to San Diego State.
I know that
he don't play basketball in Denver.
Yeah, he don't even go to his own games. Like,
so he was on the sideline. So Lil Wayne was there. Lil Wayne's a Green Bay.
Offset was there.
Offset was there. Some dude named Key Glock. It's so funny when like these commentators have to say rapper names in the middle of their sets. It's just like, yeah, there's Key Glock. Like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know who that is either. But he performed live, and so I get what Deion is doing. And Deion is famous for this. And this is, like I said, it's the best part about it being Deion, and the part that I love the most is that when he had the Jerry curl and the sunglasses on and all the gold chains pre-draft, he wasn't on anybody's team. And he said, I told the Giants I would ask for so much money to have to put me on layaway. That is him to a T. And I think that's the thing that Deion is like I'm not going to dim my light so you feel like you shine it.
Right.
He's not going to do it. So he said it, and he said it in the interview. He was like, listen, he's like, the whole time I was thinking when they were down in the fourth quarter, he was like, I can't let this dude win because I don't want to have to deal with him at the podium if they win this game. So like most coaches would not come out and say something that honest and transparent. Granted, he won. I don't know if he says that if they lost. But even in a win, Nick Saban's never going to come to the podium and say, man, I really wanted to win that game because I didn't want Lane Kiffin up here with sunglasses and gold chains on popping champagne. Because
I don't need to hear Jimbo's mouth.
Yeah, he's not going to say that. But yeah, I was like, listen, I don't want this dude up here celebrating because I don't know what he's going to say at the podium if he beats us.
And I like what Deion said afterwards when they asked him about Coach Norvell. He said, like, my blessing don't have anything to do with his blessing.
Like my success is not going to stop his success. So why would I want him to be unsuccessful? He's like, I'm going to be successful on my own.
And Jay Norvell is a good coach. He just was very Bush League in this situation because he got caught up in the hype. He got caught up in the moment.
It's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody.
Everybody can't do it. Like we all have you all have friends. Like if you think about back in the long time ago when, we're out in these streets, there's a guy in your group that has that kind of charisma that when you go out, he can just attract people. It's just something that comes intrinsically to him. It's natural. Get people around. He can laugh and crack jokes. The fifth dude in your group might not be able to do that. And the day he tries to step up and do that, he just ruins the mood.
Ruin the mood. Or y'all in some kind of fight, or like y'all get kicked out the club.
You do. Why are you doing that? Norvell, like, listen, you're already going to be on the big stage. He was probably better off not saying anything.
Just letting the game
plan because he had a great game.
Yeah, because now we're talking about this instead of saying like, yo, look at how Colorado State spread them out in shallow cross.
He got that number 14 Horton.
Yeah,
he might have got that guy drafted in the first or second round.
And the running back wasn't bad either. Morrow, he wasn't bad either.
Just off this game, the defensive end who ended up getting kicked out, like I said, we'll get to nuance of that. Muhammad Kamara.
Yep.
He looks like he could play on Sunday.
These damn Kamaras.
Yeah, they're just everywhere. So I think he had an opportunity to showcase his team, and I think he might be able to keep his players because it's not that far from Colorado Springs to Boulder, and you could transfer.
So they go out there, Collins, so they're even closer to Boulder.
Yeah, so if they get smoked, it's like Deion's right here ready to take a few of these players off your hands. But now you got it to where they want to come back next year and play Colorado and not go join them in the transfer portal. Someone undoubtedly might do it, but like I said, I think what Deion did, and you have to be careful because Shedeur is putting himself in a position of where I get that he is Deion's son, and they have a lot of same mannerisms. I have same mannerisms. My father, my son, subsequently has the same as mine.
His watch thing,
the watch thing is it might become more of a distraction. It needs to be. You did it for a couple of weeks. Now don't do it. Let everybody else do it. Make the shirts, do all the other stuff, but now get back to not
go win this Heisman.
You have to dim your light. Yeah, go win the Heisman. Go out there and ball because the throw he made to Horn in the corner, which ironically, you know who missed the tackle, right? The safety that put Travis Hunt out of the game. So
yeah,
it's poetic justice. But that throw, so he rolls to his left. And just in this beautiful motion, he squares his shoulders and throws a dart. And that's far. Like, you look at a football field on TV. I was after my son's game. We had a youth football game the other day. One of his friends was standing on like the 40-yard line on the other side. So it's like 60 yards away from the end zone. And I'm standing I'm walking off the field in the corner and they're walking the other direction. And I'm talking to his mom. I look up and I call his name. He could barely hear me. And I was thinking like, quarterbacks in the NFL make accurate throws from that 40-yard hash to this pylon where I'm standing at. It looked crazy. So he made that throw. I think he let it go probably from like the 45-yard line down to by like the 6 on a rope on the run. Like that's like showcase that. You're gonna have all the other stuff, and everybody else is gonna, clamor. But like I said, poetic justice. The dude that put the guy out was the guy that got beat for the touchdown.
And like I said, I don't want Deion to stop. You know what I mean? Like I'm on board with it, but you just have to be aware that there's another side to this. Like everybody's not going to acquiesce and just go along with it or have the same reaction, or whatever. And that doesn't make you a hater. Some things are just for you. Some things are not.
But some people are flat out hating. Like
some people are, but not everybody.
It's just over the top. Yeah.
Like it's just like I didn't want to say his name, but it's just like LeBron. You know what I'm saying? Like me and you always. I know me and you always had these conversations about like, somebody's hating on LeBron or whatever, but nobody ever recognizes the 30 media people or so that rub LeBron every chance they get. You know what I mean? And so for the same thing. So for every person that we could consider to be hating on Deion, we could find 60 that are over the top the other way.
It's like it's a lot of stuff that's over the top. Like the what's the narrative that I've been seeing? He's gonna change college football. No, he isn't. He is one of one.
The transfer portal did that.
The transfer portal,
because he wouldn't be able to do what he's doing right now without the portal.
Yeah, so the portal helped him. I think his ability, he would be able to do what he's doing right now in 2 years without the portal.
Right.
Without like the portal, he could get some transfers that might have to sit, and he can recruit, and he can recruit Florida. But it's this recruiting game. It's a money game, so he has to make it work immediately, and I think he's doing a good job of that. But I think some people, when I read through some of his comments about like he's not changing college football. He is just doing what he's capable of doing.
He's a winner
at a high level. Everybody can't do what he does. Even with a guy like we'll use Nick Saban as an example. He can get head coach quality assistant coaches on his staff and keep them on the staff for a nice little run, and then they all go get jobs. Whereas you get, like, especially in the NFL, Philly had their run last year. Both of their coordinators gone. Whereas Nick, like, listen, stay here one more year.
You get a better job.
You'll get a better job, and we'll go get this other guy. You can kind of groom him up, so when you leave, I'm set. We're good to go.
It's just like the military, right? You train in your replacement.
Train your replacement. If you got to come back, I got a spot for you. Sarkisian. Hey, you want to come back? I got you. Bill Belichick. Hey, Bill Bryan, you need a spot? I got you. Come on back.
And Josh McDaniel, welcome home once he get fired.
Come on back. Matt Patricia, come on back. So, like, a lot of coaches don't have that kind of relationship, nor do they have the cachet to be able to say, I'm bringing this guy back. You got to keep in mind, Bill Belichick is bringing back coaches who got fired. He's been doing that for Romeo Crennel, Charlie Weiss. These guys were getting fired at other places. He was bringing them back.
Right.
Bruce Arians kind of has that kind of swag, that cachet. What Deion has, he's got head coaches that are like, he had Art Browse in Jackson State. Yeah, he's a head coach at Baylor.
He had and has Mike Zimmer, NFL head coach, former NFL head coach. He got Sean Lewis as his offensive coordinator, who
was a head coach.
His head coaching job to come there
to be an assistant, and this is before any success. This is the success he was having at HBCU. And I'm telling you, going to Colorado, quit your head coaching job, come with me, watch what we do.
And I'm telling you, Michigan State. If Sean Lewis is not on your short list, I don't know if he would leave, but if he ain't on your list of people to call, you're doing it wrong. But
they have to bring out so much money, got to put them on layaway. That's what Deion is probably putting people in positions for that, like the sunglasses thing. He said in an interview,
I know, I looked him up. I'm gonna get me a pair.
I'm good. I only like wearing sunglasses. only time I ever wore sunglasses consistently in my life was in Iraq, and because it's just bright and there's no trees. So I was like, I gotta do something. I'm walking around all day long on my day off, and I was getting like these lines right here. So I was always doing this. So I had to wear like the ugly ones they issue, not even like any fly ones, like the ones that look like this, those ugly 1980 joints.
Yeah.
But I think with Deion, what he's going to be able to do with that staff is every day is this free advertising. It's the LeVar Ball effect.
Yeah.
So with the glasses, he has Rich Eisen like, so did you do this because of that? He was like, listen, we already had planned it for this week. And the guy just happened to say it. And he was like, well, he's like, I know marketing. He said, so he's like, I got the team together and we just ran with it. And when he was like, on my mama, on my hood, I'm so, I look fly. I look that was legit.
And now, unfortunately, we got death threats entering the chat.
Come on. I think you should do a mandatory 1 year in jail for a death threat off the rip. Just pre-trial, no bail, just for stupidity. You should, especially if it's over sports. If Travis Hunter is not trying to kill him or any of his teammates not trying to kill him on the field, why are you, as a fan that just became a fan in August, ready to risk your freedom to threaten this man and his family? Like, this is a football game. This is a young man playing a football game. Yeah, the hit was dirty. It was late. But Shadir tried to poke a dude's eyes out. I'm pretty sure at the pile of all these fumbles, dudes are jabbing each other in the ear and spitting each other's faces and all kinds of wild stuff happens. They're about to fight pregame. It is a gridiron game. It is a violent game.
Because it's personal.
A lot of bravado and machismo to play this game, and some of that is going to go overboard. It is what it is. You don't want it to happen to you. You don't want to get injured because of it, but the risk you run, it's like going to the club with a lot of fly clothes on. Somebody might want to take your stuff from you. So you can want to look fly when you go out. That's your right. But you can't be like, I cannot believe this happened to me.
I think Florida State and Miami aren't even allowed to kick off until a helmet gets swung.
Yeah, I think it's a prerequisite. I think
it's like a pre-ritual.
They do it in a meeting with the referee. They're like, all right,
the 50, bitch.
See you 2 fighters into the referee's office. We got the pad laid out. Winner gets the coin toss.
Yeah.
So it's beyond childish, it's reckless. And just another thing, this is a digital age. So if you brought a note to his house, there's a camera in the neighborhood. There's a camera at the store you passed. If you sent it, your IP address is basically a fingerprint. And it's not even that hard to find you. I know a 10-year-old who knew how to block his teachers from seeing his laptop in school on Zoom. He's 10. He knows how to do that. So people who get paid to track these kind of things, they know how to find you also.
Yeah, my 5-year-old knew how to use Alexa as a telephone, and I didn't even know that was a thing.
I tried to lock my screen. My daughter was watching Netflix, so she couldn't move the thing around. So my son's like, "Oh, you just gotta lock the screen." So we locked it. She looked. Literally, I handed her the phone. She just unlocked that feature for no reason. She didn't even need to change the screen. She just did it because she saw that we locked the screen.
Yeah.
And so she's like, "Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo." So I was like, and I looked at her. I looked at my son. I was like, "Well, that was pointless." Literally, as soon as I handed her the phone, we were like on the train. She's like, "Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo." She knows when the text messages come in to swipe to gently touch the screen and swipe up the text message so it gets out of the way so she can keep watching. So it's like you're acting as if you're not going to get caught. I think, like I said, I think off the rip you should just get a year.
I am a little curious though, and then we'll move on. I am a little curious though at how this would be viewed both ways if it was the other way around. Because, like you said, Colorado wasn't necessarily innocent in the situation, but there wasn't like a lot of this. It was like all CSU bad. You know,
Yo,
you had
bro, they had LeBron and people personal fouls.
They did.
They had back.
But there were plays that Colorado could have got personal fouls on that they didn't. You know what I mean? It works both ways. Like it wasn't just CSU.
They had like 16 of them.
I will tell you.
I'm gonna look up the actual number, but I think it was like 16
Colorado State. Well, I think they had 18 penalties total. But Colorado, like, I don't know. Like, it takes two.
No,
it takes two. Now, Colorado was the more disciplined of the two teams, obviously. You know what I mean? But like you said, like, like if Homeboy should have got kicked out for the hit on Hunter, then what do you do with somebody trying to poke somebody's eye out? Like, you know what I mean? Like, but you ain't kicking Shador out the game, or you ain't asking for Shador. Not you, but we're not asking for Shador to be kicked out the game or to
I don't think you should get kicked out of the game for penalties. I'm not a big.
No, that's not even the point. I'm just talking about
the fan base.
The talk, like
they had 11 15-yard penalties though.
They stupid.
11 of their 17 penalties were 50.
They stupid,
and then that's on top of that, and this is another thing. In an interview, I don't know if it was coming out of halftime or interview just in the second quarter. Norvell talked about, I've never seen so many penalties called on one team before, and this was in the I think this is like one of those, like when they change the possession, they do like a little like the Greg Popovich.
Well, they interviewed him at a weird point. Like it was.
Yeah, it was random second quarter after a punt or something. They were getting the ball back. Maybe it was coming out for the second half, but I know it was in the middle of the game. And from that point on is when I really got into the game because I was doing some other stuff. So I was probably around then when I started watching the game. Then the interview happened. He talked about the penalties, and then I watched the second half and then overtime. And it's like, dog, you're getting. Kamara got 2 back-to-back personal foul calls, back-to-back plays, and then the second one got him kicked out because they had gotten 9 before in the third and fourth quarter,
and that's
where they fumbled the ball, interceptions. It's just they played a good football team, a good football game. They had it won. They should have gone for it on 4th and 2 instead of punting it down to the 2-yard line. I'd rather end the game there because you get the 3 yards, it's a wrap. And they were killing.
They should have went for the 2 in overtime.
That was probably
get out of
there too.
Just get out of there. You know what I mean? But and this is the thing. Like Norvell messed up. You know what I mean? Because he had the ability. I mean, if we're going off of it's personal. He made it personal or whatever. He had the ability to, one, even if it was just for the camera, he pulled that player over there and just light his ass up. Like, this is not what we came to do, blah, 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 whatever. Like, we don't even got to know what he said, but just the visual of him having an issue with what the player did.
Because realistically, that's what they came to do. Okay. Because it didn't stop. Like, that's what I'm saying.
But the point being,
deliberate. Like, it was coached. It was coached for them to play to the whistle. You can tell by the way that, because that was a big thing that happened. That was a big hit. It took the best player one of their best players out of the game, and they got 9 more
after that.
After that,
or so yeah.
So
that's what I'm saying. So that's where like, because like I said, I think he's a good coach. He came over from Nevada. I think that he had an opportunity. Even if it was after the game, even if it was a day after the game, he had the opportunity. And if he said it, I apologize, but I haven't heard it. But he had the opportunity to say, obviously, we let this get ahead of us and we lost control. Like, I regret that. Like, or whatever. Like,
I don't think he needs to be apologetic for it.
Well, he doesn't necessarily. He doesn't even necessarily have to be apologetic.
Not publicly, but to me, I'm just saying, I'm not a big fan of, like,
I'm just saying acknowledge.
I don't think coaches even have to do that sometimes. Like, listen, only people you're obligated to is your team. The media can get what you give them. I think if he came out and said, because I personally do not think that he cared that guy hit Travis Hunter late. I don't think he cared at all, because every one of those penalties, they kept getting the chop block penalties. I've never seen a team get that many second half chop. Like, it's a simple rule. If a guy's engaged up top, don't hit him low, because they run because they have small.
Right, I know. I'm just saying.
These mountain men, these 325-pound guys, and they just kept getting. Not only were they getting
Brawny and all that, like
they were getting,
towels,
but
no, I get what you're saying.
They just kept getting those kind of penalties, so you could tell that whole week, from the time that Dion was saying it was personal, he probably had the same kind of private meeting with his team and said it's personal.
That we're never going to see CSU again until they play Colorado next year. So that's why I said, like, I felt like that was an opportunity. I'm like, maybe apologizing is too much, or saying the regret part is too, but I'm just saying, acknowledging, like, hey, like, look, like, this was a crazy game. Both teams were emotionally, like, whatever, like, just say something. It don't got to be apologetic, but just acknowledge, like, this ain't how I operate, or like, whatever, like, you know what I mean? But anyway.
Yeah, we'll me, I don't care.
Yeah. We'll move on. Well, it's funny because
he coached. You can tell the world has they coach a little recklessness.
The world has changed so much. The world has changed so much. Like, we had people like Bill Romanowski, and you know what I mean, like people like this running around doing these things, and nobody was complaining about it. Nobody was complaining about it. Like
Chuck Cecil, Bill Romanowski, Steve Atwater.
I just think
that come down the box. Brian Dawkins was the heavy hitter. Ronnie Lott was out there cutting his fingertips off. Yeah, football used to be a real brutal sport. Now it's just
I just think that this happened to Colorado, and people got upset about it because it happened to Colorado. I think that had a lot to do with it.
See, okay, this is why I call him 2-5 people. Mike likes, and me and him, I'll go back and forth with him on this all the time. He likes to, I'm trying to find the right word.
I'm just saying, keep that same energy. That's all I'm
saying. Yeah, the keep the same energy thing. Mike was doing that before everybody else came up with it, before it became a fancy phrase.
That's all I'm saying.
I feel what you're saying.
Like, LeBron would not have sent a tweet if a Colorado player had hit a CSU player like that. That's just not what type of time we on. Colorado is the story. We must protect Colorado at all costs.
And this is why we call him 2-5, ladies and gentlemen.
Anyway, we moving on. What did you see?
This is why we have the best show on the internet.
What did you see this weekend along the college football lines, besides this game that we were supposed to talk about for 10 minutes and we spent 30 minutes on?
Man. What I noticed Alabama struggled. with an inferior opponent. That was huge. I noticed a lot of teams were just kind of waiting and we'll kind of dipping our toe into the pool, like, big game Saturdays coming up. I was running around, so I didn't get to see a lot of college football. So by the time I really got settled in on Saturday, is I started getting those late games. Colorado being one of them, but like I said, I I like where college football is going. I like the fact that we don't know exactly who's going to be in the championship. Like sometimes it seems like certain teams have already kind of been like, all right, these teams are going to be here. Texas struggling with Wyoming was a shock to me. Um, but that energy, that pendulum swing from basically, I won't say dismantling Alabama because I think that might be too harsh for an adjective, but handling Alabama the way they did. The game was essentially never in doubt from the second quarter on. Uh, Milrow didn't look comfortable at all. Texas looked comfortable with that big rotation that they run with the defensive linemen, run playing like 18, 19, 20 different defensive players, 12 guys in the defensive line. I think that's going to bode well for them if they can just make early plays. Like when you have playmakers that they have on the outside, get them the ball early, get them easy passes. Like I'm talking about like the Antonio Brown trying to get your catch bonus. Like, just come down the line. We're going to throw these just get the ball to your hands of your playmakers early. Make the defense have to adjust to the speed and then watch everything else kind of settle in because you have that advantage. And I think a lot of teams do that. Like Florida's another team. You have like these skill position players. Get the ball in their hands. A lot of your quarterbacks, there's like this, I think it's this lull between getting your pocket passing quarterback or you guy that can move. If you have a pocket passer like Quinn or guy down in Florida, even Shador's not a big runner. Get the ball to the playmakers in space early. Set the tone with that. Like set the tone with your speed. Set the tone with these guys with their run after catch, and then you can settle in. I think a lot of college coaches don't do that. They come with this game plan. Like we want to do this, and this. Like no, like get the ball in the hands of your playmakers early. And I think as we go forward, teams like Alabama will start doing that, and they'll start to separate themselves. Like the teams who have those kind of playmakers, your Oklahomas, your Clemsons, uh, Duke. Riley Leonard looks, looking like he, I think he had like 13 rushes for 97 yards, a couple hundred yards passing. I just think, like I said, I think college football. I normally don't really get into it to this extent when I'm watching games at 2:30 in the morning. Maybe that's the Colorado effect. Maybe it's the podcast conversations with you just seems to
be them at all cost.
Like your knowledge and your insight for college football. It makes me want to step their A game up when they talk to you because I noticed in our group chats or in our different sports groups, not a lot of responses to Mike when he drops listen, these are the numbers, these are the facts, this is what's going on. This is where this guy came from. He was coaching here, the office coordinator here. They brought the so like what about it just makes me get into it even more and more.
Well, that's what makes this Alabama Ole Miss game interesting to me because obviously Lane Kiffin was on Saban's staff, won some national titles and everything and all that. Like we know the history, but then also, I don't know how many people are tracking that Ole Miss's offense or defensive coordinator this year, Pete Golding, the guy that they ran out of Tuscaloosa last year. So, so all these SEC coaches just kind of rotate around the conference.
So what you're saying is personal?
Yeah, it's personal.
It's personal.
It's what, and
personal. It's supposed to be a game, but now it's what?
But we were talking about this before we went on. Like Lane Kiffin is just one of those dudes that just can't keep his damn mouth shut. So like he was talking about how he was watching the South Florida Alabama game. He got the copy of the game, the TV copy or whatever. And he saw that like I didn't see Kevin Steele calling the plays. I saw T. Rob calling the plays, and I don't know how he saw that because one of them is in the booth and one of them isn't. But like he said that he saw that. I think some people just been talking around the SEC, but like So Nick Saban came out and was like, nah, basically we just trying to improve like XYZ, blah, 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 blah. So the one thing you don't do before you play somebody like Nick Saban or Bill Belichick is you don't tip them off with any intel that you may have. Keep your mouth shut. Go out there, kick their ass. And then after the game, when the media says, how were you able to have such success against Alabama? Well, we noticed. Whatever.
This.
You know what I mean? Don't say it beforehand, because now
it's like
they got
cat that got the canary but couldn't stop licking himself.
Yeah, now they got a week to fix it up, or change whatever you think you saw, and you're going to have a whole different game plan, a whole different Alabama. Jalen Milroe is back in the lineup, not two dudes that combined to go 10 or 23 for 97 yards. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's where we are. Florida, obviously impressive if you think Tennessee was a great team. But we talked about here on Sports Reports as Ordered, we told you that Joe Milton has never played in an environment like that. He wasn't Hendon Hooker from the standpoint of Hendon Hooker was a quick decision maker, and he took what the defense gave him. Now, I'm not saying that Joe Milton is making bad decisions. It just doesn't process as quickly. And when you're playing against a team like Florida that has that speed coming off the edge,
yeah, you can't.
You got to think quick.
You got 2.5 seconds. You got 2.5 seconds to make a decision. To make a decision. By then, you got to I'm going or the ball's going.
And this is why I hate this part of the season, because Mr. Logical always tells y'all that like I'm the stat guy or whatever. So like this is what I hate, because this is only game 3 of the season. Tennessee came into this game top 20 in rushing, against UVA and Austin Peay. But it was Florida that ran for, Travis Etienne or Trevor Etienne ran for 172 yards. Nobody on Tennessee. Florida went 7 for 8 on third down, and in the first half held the ball for 22 minutes. But Tennessee was supposed to be the strong running team. That's just not how this works. Now you're playing against competition, and all that stuff against Austin Peay and UVA, because UVA I was going to say Boston College, but we saw the fits that they gave my Seminoles. But UVA might just be the worst.
I bet a lot of spreads this weekend. I bet 14, 20 plus spreads. I just wanted to see. You put $10 on it. Granted, it was like an $82,000 payout. So the likelihood.
And if you want to bet this week, if you want to bet this week, take USC to lay whatever against Arizona State, because they're basically out of offensive linemen. They played all their quarterbacks this weekend because they got hurt. They got shut out by Fresno State at home. So take USC plus whatever.
Take the over.
Yeah, take everything. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know about the over, because Arizona State ain't gonna score very much. But yeah, FSU BC, address the elephant in the room. I'm not gonna run from the smoke. Boston College came out. I told y'all that bandana game is real. They might not always win. They might not even win a lot during the bandana game. But they're not going to play a better game for the rest of the season, any season, when they play the bandana game, because it just means too much and it hits home for them. And that's why I was a little nervous going into the game. I didn't think it would be that close, but I saw the dumbest shit that I ever saw in my life. Like I literally saw a dude muff a squib. Like, I don't even know how that works. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't even an onside kick. It was a squib kick, and he lost it.
It's panic. Everybody's not wired for every moment that they're thrusted into. So you see that ball coming, you think of all the things you shouldn't do. I shouldn't get it. Is a guy behind me going to get it? Should I let it bounce?
Who was that? Seattle and Green Bay?
I was literally thinking of that.
Yeah.
He was supposed to block. And he said when the ball was coming to him, he's like, I know I'm supposed to block, but it's coming right to me. So he's like, in that split second, I just decided I grab this ball, we go to the Super Bowl.
and he didn't grab the ball.
And he jumped up and it hit him off his face mask. I was literally thinking that when I was saying it, because if you do what you're taught and you don't panic, like we'll talk about, like, certain quarterbacks in the pocket, like Tom Brady in the pocket, like the way he could just kind of manipulate it, move and slide, and not run out. Was Kenny Pickett, the guys coming up the A gap, just lay down. You're not going to run out of that. Don't lose 7 more yards. Make it 2nd and 15
Yeah, don't
versus
get intentional
2nd and
grounding.
22. Just Peyton Manning. If you came up the gap on Peyton Manning and it was unblocked, he just would lay down. Boop,
live for another day.
and then he'd go up and then he throw his route. So like those guys panic, man. Especially and you can feel the energy. You see the bandanas and the jerseys. He knows what's going on. He knows what's at stake. They probably preached it like, hey, this is the bandana game. This is a big game for them. They probably watched the clip that you said. They were like, listen, sports reports were ordered, 2 vets, no gimmicks. They talked about how important this game was. And in that moment, you just bobble it.
And Jordan Travis got hurt, towards the end of the half. I thought the season was over. I texted Mr. Logical and said, FSU season just ended because he wasn't moving his arm. He came back. Obviously, he was a little timid when it came to running the ball, but he got the job done. BC still had a chance late to win that game. 3rd and 2, got the stop, but face mask. BC school record 18 penalties, so it wasn't just Colorado State. Everybody was getting in on the penalties that day. But but like the one thing I will say that I don't take away from this game, I'm not panicking. Last year, Georgia went to Columbia, Missouri, and didn't have the lead until 5 minutes left in the game, won 26-22. I think that season ended just fine. Alabama, the great team with Devontae Smith, John Mechie, so on and so forth, that won the national, Mac Jones that won the national title, needed 4 overtimes to beat Auburn. So, like these things happen.
You have a game. During the course of the season. Like that. Like
these are kids.
Those guys put on shoulder pads and helmets, and they practice in the winter or the summertime 2-a-days. They're doing their spring, so they're doing everything that you're doing. You just can't let them take something from you. Someone's going to be.
Yeah, I'm not worried about
games. That happens. You just can't let somebody take something from you.
And apparently, if BC ever has a top 5 team coming into Chestnut Hill, you just take the money line because they have never beat a top 5 team at home, which is odd considering when I think of the biggest upsets in college football history, I think about them in 1993 winning at South Bend that cost Notre Dame a national title. So apparently they could beat top 5 teams on the road, but not at home. But hey, that's neither here nor there. Malik Neighbors at LSU, 273 receiving yards.
Wide receiver LSU, right? WRLSU. Yeah. Shout out to Adam.
There you go. Jaden Daniels, 30 of 34 for 361. So people are probably going to say he's a Heisman dark horse, but he's not. They got Arkansas this week. Shout out to not this one, but the other one, down the road in Provo, went into Fayetteville and beat the big bad SEC Razorbacks. So, we had Kansas State go into Columbia, Missouri and lose on a 61-yard field goal. So maybe week 3 wasn't as bad as we thought it was. Yeah, maybe week 3 wasn't as bad as we thought it because we were nervous looking at the games. Like, where's the standouts?
And where's the conversation piece going to be? I mean, I didn't think Georgia, South Carolina was going to be that close. Like I said, that's one of the lines that I bet. But you have those kind of games where it just doesn't come together. Blocks are missed, assignments are missed.
Yeah. And these teams are familiar with each other. They play each other every year.
4th and 1, you jump, and now you got a punt, or 4th and 1, you jump. Now it's the first time. Like these things happen, but when you're like one of these upper echelon teams, you just find a way to claw through all that and succeed.
Well,
Ohio
South Carolina
doesn't seem like they're going to be tested at all year long.
Well, here we go. This weekend they're going to be tested when they go into South Bend. But like, remember I was telling you real quick before we jump into that, I was telling you how I was afraid for South Carolina because whenever they play Georgia, I feel like Shane Beamer is like just not trying to get it ran up on them. So they were up 14-3 at halftime, and they catch him going into the locker room to get his thoughts or whatever. And you should have saw that dude. Like, you would have thought they were up 30-3. Like he was like, yeah, like, we're dominating and we're doing this and we're doing. Then they didn't score again. You know what I mean? Like, they just get too full of it too quick. But Ohio State going to South Bend this week. Oh, they gonna get tested. They might lose. I haven't looked at it quite yet to get into it. My initial thought is Notre Dame. You know what I mean? As soon as I saw that Ohio State was favored. But I don't know, because like it's like the Florida State Clemson thing, right? Before the season started, my takeaway was Clemson's going to beat Florida State on September 23rd, and then Florida State's going to beat Clemson in the ACC title game, right? Clemson came out, lost to Duke. Everybody buried Clemson and said, "Get them out of here."
Yeah,
and all they've done is kick ass. I mean, granted, against nobody, but they've been kicking ass. So then, like Florida State, that's why with the BC game, I'm not that shook about it, because I'm like, if you're going to have that stinker, have it the week before you go to Clemson. Now Mike Norvell is in that locker room, like, see how close we were to blowing it all, or whatever the case may be. Now you're going into Death Valley. You're a 1.5 to 2.5 point favorite, depending on where you look. So I'm sure Clemson is looking at it like, why are they favored?
Not ranked though.
They shouldn't be. I mean, okay. We talked about. I don't want to rehash the conversation we had off air, but basically, like, if we're just going off of they have talent, recruiting rankings, their name is Clemson. Yes, they should be ranked. They should be ranked. They lost by 21 points. They lost the opening game by 21 points, and they've beaten Charleston Southern and Florida Atlantic since. So, like, I
don't know how they went from 8 to out of the top 25. That doesn't lost, happen.
Because they lost.
Duke, granted, Duke's not a traditional football
right. They're not a football power. They weren't ranked. Yeah.
It's if LSU,
the SEC plays by different rules.
If LSU loses to Kentucky, they don't go from 8 to 30.
The SEC plays by different rules. Just like there was one year, Mississippi State wasn't even ranked, and they beat LSU. They went, like, I think 4-0. They beat LSU. They went from unranked to 12. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how it goes.
And LSU stayed in the top 25.
Yeah.
Sure.
So like Clemson, I'm sure is looking at this and saying, why is Florida State favored? Because they're looking at the past and they're like, hey, we've beaten them 6 or 7 straight times. We're the big dog in the ACC that has won, like, the last 6 or 7 ACC titles. So why are they favored? Whereas Florida State's like, after the LSU game and after what happened to Clemson against Duke, people probably thought Florida State was going to be favored by 10 going in there.
I think the people just might be growing tired of Dabo Swinney.
Yeah, I'm tired of Dabo too.
I think they're just like, we built our...
We did it the right way.
On God, the image of God and likeness of, like...
Well, he doesn't use the portal.
He
doesn't use the portal. And he was one of the dudes that was on some... There was, like, I hate the portal, like, I don't even know how much longer I want to do this. He was one of those guys. Like, he was like the forefront of that. He was like, again, he came out against Kaepernick, all that stuff. So I've been tired of Dabo for a long time, but you can't deny what the guy has done. Like, that's first and foremost. But Ohio State, Notre Dame, I think that, this is going to be a great game, because last year, Ohio State beat Notre Dame 21-10 in the first game of the season. Notre Dame had no quarterback, a new head coach. Ohio State had C.J. Stroud still along with the gang. So, and Notre Dame was able to suffocate them 10-7 in the third quarter before Ohio State finally took the lead at the end of the third quarter. Now, it's almost like when I looked at, remember we talked about Texas and Alabama, and I said, hey, like, Texas got everything the same besides Bijan, and they lost by 1, and Bryce Young ain't walking through that door. That's kind of how I feel right now. Like, Notre Dame upgraded with Sam Hartman, so they have the quarterback now. They have the nation's leading rusher right now, and Ohio State don't got C.J. Stroud. So, so when I look at it that way, it's easy to come to the point of Notre Dame should win. But Ohio State has just turned quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. It's hard to just...
The quarterbacks out of Ohio State in college are legit. When they get to NFL, it's ironically, it's weird that it's hit or miss as much as it is.
Yeah.
But
Stroud's looked good so far. Obviously he's on a bad team, but
he's just on a bad team.
But Ohio State, they kicked the shit out of my alma mater, and all that the other day, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
but
I should have bet them to cover that spread, even though it was like 34.5.
Yeah.
A 32.5.
Michael Penix Jr., you know what I mean? Like 473 yards, 4 touchdowns in East Lansing. Now Mel Tucker is out of there. Like they sent him the letter yesterday with the intent to fire him for cause. I guess it's a 7-day process. So it looks like next Tuesday.
They must have the evidence they need to support, because his buyout's like $80 million.
Yeah, and he's still fighting. Well, if they fire him for cause, they don't have to pay the money.
That's what I'm saying. They must have something that's definitive, because that's an $80 million gamble.
And he took our minds off of Pat Fitzgerald, out of Northwestern with the hazing and all that, because same thing. They fired him for cause, and he lawyered up, and now we're going to go to court. Mel Tucker's still out here talking, saying that Michigan State didn't do this the right way. They're doing it for other reasons.
Stop trying to plead your case in a court of public opinion, man. Like, yeah, you're a bad head coach and they give you a bad contract. I don't doubt. But for them to publicly be like, "Oh, we have these accusations," it has to be something legitimate to it. Get a lawyer. Let the lawyer speak for you. Stop being out here, because the streets don't care. If I say, man, I think you deserve that $80 million, that don't mean a damn thing. You're not getting 85 cents. See, if I agree with you, or somebody on the media agrees with you, you got to get a judge to agree that you are owed this money. You can't get that by spilling out all your information.
And see, and that's another reason why I'm down with Colorado, because before Deion Sanders, there was Carl Durrell, and before Carl Durrell, there was Mel Tucker. You know what I'm saying? Like, they give it opportunity out here, but yeah, so Mel Tucker's out of there. It sounds like Michigan State, I have no idea what they're going to do. Like I said, I would look at Sean Lewis. I'm pretty sure Pat Narduzzi from Pitt is going to be on the short list. And I said that so that I can say, man, the backyard brawl was really a backyard brawl. I had, out of all the things that I thought I would hear on TV, I went to the Royal Rumble this year, and everybody was mad at Roman Reigns, and the crowd was screaming "F you, Roman," and everybody at home was like texting me like, "Yo, that chant is so loud." I never thought I would turn on a college football game and hear people saying "Eat shit, Pitt." So loud and audible, they couldn't even get away from it. But Neil Brown at West Virginia probably saved his job, for the time being. He came into the season with a lot of hot seat talk. We'll see where it goes from there. But Notre Dame, back to the Notre Dame Ohio State thing real quick. They didn't necessarily look that great against Central Michigan either. And when you peel it back, you look at Notre Dame. Who have they beat? They beat Navy. They beat Tennessee State. They beat NC State in a game that had like a 5-hour lightning delay. And
yeah, but they were, you could tell they were head and shoulders above NC State. But it's the same issue that we have every year with college football. Like I said, we talked about this off air, where some schools will play the one marquee matchup of, like for instance, this year and last year, LSU, FSU. They'll play that game. You lose, but you'll stay in the top, whatever, you get your top 15 matchup. You'll still stay in the top 15, top 20. And then other teams will say, listen, we need 3 tune-up games before we play Ohio State. We need 2 tune-up games to really, like 2 preseason games, essentially. And then we will, play our NC State kind of matchup, our North Carolina matchup, our Iowa matchups, some like one of the middle tier, Power 5 schools.
Yeah, a team that if you beat, we like can't Alabama, knock you, but we ain't gonna give you all the credit either.
We're not gonna give you a bunch of credit for beating Arizona. We're not gonna give you a ton of credit for beating, like I said, Iowa or Nebraska, one of these schools. And then you play your marquee Ohio State matchup, whereas Alabama used their game last week against South Florida as a live practice. Like I said, my son's youth football team did that because we had a team that from a team from South Jersey. They were kind of undersized, and we knew they were undersized for most of the year. So we would either pull back in the second quarter, or we would full on start our second string. like especially if it was like 4 or 5 games in a year, and you could see how many points they have scored. The first game of the year we played them last year was the first game of the season, so we played our starters the first half and demolished them. But in those years where we play them like the fifth or sixth game, and you can see they've only scored 12 points and they're 0-5, then you just start your backups. Right. Alabama did that in the college football game. Like, listen, we're gonna live practices. I could chew you out. I can put your wins on film against another team. I could put your losses on film against another team, and that way, as we build to rebound from the Texas loss, you can press forward.
See, and I think Nick Saban was more or less, telling the fans to shut up because people wanted Milroe out of there. When they lost to Texas, even though they lost to Texas, like, you know what I mean? If you lose to like Vanderbilt, okay. You know what I mean? You lose to like, South Florida, I get it. But he lost to Texas, and everybody was like, no, we got to get this dude out of here. So he puts these two quarterbacks.
If he played if he's out there just throwing the ball to the other team and they lost, they lose 42-14 because he can't stop throwing pick sixes or fumbling the ball. But if it's just a matter of like, hey, there's a few things we gotta tighten up, sit back, watch, go over the film, see these other guys, and now when we put you back in there,
put 56 on South Florida next week. You know what I mean? And but I think now we saw how awful these quarterbacks were. Ty Simpson is probably the future, but the future's not now. But we saw how awful they were. So now Nick Saban can say, look, y'all were bitching. I put those dudes in the game, and now you see why Jalen was starting in the first place.
now 23, 97 yards. Those are numbers.
Yeah. So now if you listen to people like Josh Pate from Late Kick Live, who I listen to a lot, he seems to think that Jalen Milroe may have been suspended. I don't know. I haven't heard anybody else to say that but him. And he's not the type of dude that usually makes up stuff. So I'll just leave that there. But so I mean, I don't know.
Wait for the documentary.
Yeah, we'll wait for the documentary. But the rise and the fall, the elephant in the room. There you go.
Yeah.
Name it.
Elephant in the room.
Yeah, there
Trademark
you go. But yeah, so this is what college football is from week to week.
Great name, by the way. My bad.
Yeah.
That's a great documentary.
See, I don't even got that written down. It's like not even there. Like I just made that up.
Jimbo Fisher will get interviewed. He'll tell the truth. He'll tell you how God does his work. How God does his work.
Yeah, but yeah, this is the weekend for college football. Thursday, we'll get into our previews and our predictions and everything like that. Like I'm gonna go look at the numbers. I'm gonna see what I can find. I mean, I can tell you right now that I'm probably picking Florida State. Like I said earlier in the season, I picked Clemson just based off of I think Clemson was just, it's in Death Valley. You're asking a lot to go in there and win that way. But from what we've seen so far, I have to adapt to the results. Like I can't just stay stuck and granted, Florida State's my team. So I'm sure everybody's going to just say, oh, you just ended up picking your team anyway, but we'll see. But anyway, the week that was week 2 in the NFL season brought some fireworks, Brandon Staley calling these timeouts at the weird times. And so I know you didn't see that part of the game, but so basically what happened was it was overtime, 3rd and 2. Derrick Henry looking like he need a CPAP, so he's on the sideline, blowing air. And Staley calls a timeout because they couldn't get the defense set. Now Derrick Henry comes into the game, first down. Now granted, Tennessee could have got the first down anyway. We'll never know, but it's just one of those things that stands out only because of everything else that has led up to this point, like especially coming off the playoff game with Jacksonville last year. Like everything that he does is going to just get a little bit of extra scrutiny.
Yeah, so I mean, it's no secret that I'm a Atlanta Falcons fan, and I actually had a friend troll me in the comments today. We were talking about the Giants because I had an opinion on the Dallas Cowboys, which we'll get into shortly. And he was talking about the Giants only, the Giants were down 28-3 to the Cardinals. I was like, first of all, they were not down 28-3. I see what you did there. But as a Falcons fan, I remember that we came back that year 2017 after blowing the 25-point lead. And they made the playoffs, but it was a lot of games where the coach, the quarterback, the players should have put games away. And then the season after that, 2018, I think Dan Quinn got a couple more seasons. They had the blown leads. And then in 2020, they just kept blowing leads, losing games in crazy ways because they never got over the Super Bowl. So Dan Quinn's decision making, everything was impacted by I blew a 25-point lead. Staley blew a 27-point lead where the other quarterback was having the worst game of his football career. I'm pretty sure he's never had a game like that in 7-on-7 or even practice where he could throw 100 reps and not throw 4 interceptions. And you had him on the ropes and you kicked the field goal to go up 27 versus trying to granted, you think at 27 you're putting them away, but a 5-possession game going into the second half, young team, you could have really set it off. So I think the fact that he didn't do that, he's going to be stuck. It's the same thing that happened to Nathaniel Hackett last year when he didn't make the proper decision against Seattle to run, either go for it on 4th down, and if you make it, you still had 3 timeouts, and there was over a minute left. So, just call the play, go for it. If not, you get to stop the punt, and then, you got to work your way down the field. But he let the clock run down and try to kick like a 66-yard field goal or something, or 64-yard field goal. So from that point on, he hired another coach to help him with situations. Then Staley, they bring in Kellen Moore, who wasn't doing that wasn't doing that good of a job in Dallas with all the talent that they had. Granted, yeah, they went 12-5 last couple of years, but I don't think it's because of his expert play calling. Whereas you can see a team like Kansas City or even Buffalo with Brian Dable and Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, you can tell those play calls really bolstered the team,
right? Versus just having talent.
Versus having talent. And Kellen Moore, I've never really been a believer in it because it's like you have a talented team. You have a very mundane blah kind of scheme. You just have the talent, the offensive line talent, the running back talent, a pretty level-headed quarterback.
Well, I just think
that the Chargers they aren't wired for the moment.
I don't know if Kellen Moore is better than Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett wasn't a bad coach. I think that he was a cowboy.
He just fell short of lofty expectations.
Right.
And those expectations were kind of based off of, for instance, if you think about Dallas this year and the way they looked the first 2 weeks, if I said to you, hey, I think Dallas's defense could be up there, top 6 or 7 all-time defense at the end of the year, based off these 2 weeks, that makes sense because we've seen them play. Mm-hmm. The problem with the Jason Garrett era was that in March, those kind of expectations would be levied. Super Bowl or bust, top 5 defense, top 5 offense, MVP candidate quarterback, blah, 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 rookie of the year wide receiver. All of that stuff would be coming out of Dallas in March versus now after we got a couple of games. Okay, that first play against the Jets when they ran like a little outside zone run from shotgun, and DeMarcus Lawrence came in completely untouched. I was like, oh yeah, this game's over. I knew off of that is you can't get that off. You lost 5 yards on this is your scripted play. This is going to your first 15 plays are scripted, and he just came right down there, blew it up. It was yeah, this is going to be a tough game. But Jason Garrett always got the blame for that.
So, you and I have had our Jimmy Garoppolo arguments.
Correct.
But usually for the most part, we agree on Ryan Tannehill. And Ryan Tannehill, because Staley is Mr. Defense. Ryan Tannehill went 20 of 24 against this defense. For I think it was 246 yards. He had Ryan Tannehill. His QBR against the Chargers was 123.
His rating.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Yeah.
His quarterback rating, 123 out of 158.3.
You know what I'm saying? I think that he's just in it. I think Staley is just in his own head. Tennessee, I think, is going to be one of those teams that we looked at Minnesota last year. Now, obviously, Minnesota was better, but we talk about how their record in close games was. I think that's going to be Tennessee all season. Like, most of their games are just going to come to the wire. They had not scored 22 or more points since week 11 last year. And they scored 27 against the Chargers. I just don't know what to do. Derwin James, he had that Colorado State in him. 2 personal fouls. I just don't understand like late hits and all these things like that.
They're reckless because I think the
coach is usually reckless, but just
you got to do your job. And I think they're at the point to where you're pressing. It's like a boxing match. We'll talk about Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis. Ryan Garcia had a good plan first round, and then in the second round, he just kind of overextended and thought that he was going to be able to get like I'm gonna take this to Tank, and then he caught that hook at the end of the second round and was like, oh, so we boxing, and so now his plan didn't work. And then he was on his heels because he didn't stick to like the plan that was going to work. He got a little reckless, and then it just threw him off the rest of the time.
Right.
The Chargers, their plan should be a little bit more fine-tuned because they have the weapons. They have 2 pass-catching tight ends. They have, granted, the wide receiver core does get hurt a lot, but they have, 2-3 talented wide receivers, a couple of good running backs. Eckler being, a touchdown, an end zone magnet, and then you have a very humble, big arm, new age quarterback. Like if you could build a quarterback 6'5", 235 that can move, so he's basically Ben Roethlisberger with a little bit more of like Andrew Luck athleticism, where he can move around a little bit, make throws on the run, and humility. You never see him get too down on himself. He doesn't yell at people on the sideline. We've heard all kinds of stories about Mac Jones just screaming at Matt Patricia, talking about, let's stop calling these plays. These plays are stupid. And we don't see that out of Justin Herbert. So you have great ingredients for a good stew. It's just your chef is just awful.
Yeah.
The chef is just throwing too much
just
salt.
Called them out last week. He didn't play against the Titans, but after they lost to Miami, he came out talking about like how they need to coach better and all these type of things. So like it's not just us. It's not the media. It's not us. It's not fans. It's just literally everybody is telling the Chargers the same exact thing. And Staley is just going about it how he wants to, which is his right to do so. But Mr. Burrow allegedly is in danger of missing Monday Night Football. So against the Ravens here, I don't know if it's time to hit the panic button yet. They went 0-2 last year to start out. The difference is I know they lost to Pittsburgh first game last year. Second game is escaping me right now, but they're 0-2 in division right now.
Yeah, that's tough.
And we talked about how their division is probably the best division in football, and we'll get to that game last night.
We'll call them the most physical division.
Okay.
I wouldn't call them the best.
Okay.
The AFC has preseason.
Well, the East is
now we have injuries that kind of matriculated throughout the league. But you like that?
Yeah.
The AFC North is probably, they play the most physical brand of football. I'm not saying other teams don't. I'm not saying Miami
No, I get
doesn't
what you're
play
saying. Yeah,
physical
yeah. It
football,
just
but
monsters of the
they
midway
just
type stuff.
they just play a different style. They're impact players. The post game interview of people who made the biggest impact in those games. Normally, guys like Myles Garrett's getting interviewed, T.J. Watt's getting interviewed, Highsmith got interviewed last night. They caused 4 turnovers in Pittsburgh against Cleveland.
Deshaun
So
Watson still not looking like. I mean,
Hubbard,
he had moments.
Hubbard in Cincinnati in the playoff game last year, making the defensive touchdown. And then of course Baltimore's history. So Cincinnati's in danger of going 0-3. Herbert with the calf. We've all
Or Burrow,
seen.
yeah.
Burrow with the calf. We can think in basketball terms. Anthony Davis had a calf injury that just lingered for months a few seasons ago. He was never quite right because when he came back, I think he pulled a groin. KD, he had a calf injury and he didn't play for a good chunk of that playoff run. Came back in the finals towards Achilles.
And James Harden still couldn't beat the Warriors. Never mind, different conversation.
Aaron Rodgers, rumor has it, had a calf injury, but his Achilles tear seemed to be part of like the pressure that was being put on by this guy on the back of his legs. But like I said, I've never experienced any kind of calf injury. I've never been fast enough to pull any muscles.
I had a grade 2 calf strain once, and it was similar. It was similar to the Durant injury, where I went up for a jump shot all by myself, no defender even near me. I went up for the jump shot, came down, and was just like, "Oh, hello," and it was just over, like 6 to 8 weeks. So I don't know. I mean, obviously he's a real athlete, so maybe a shorter timetable there if it comes to that. But yeah, Cincinnati could be in trouble.
I heard
Baltimore looked a lot
granted,
better.
this is overreaction Monday, Tuesday. First things first, they were talking about shutting them down. Their next 4 games are favorable. I think it's like that. I don't know the order, but I think it's like Rams.
Yeah, I got it right here. Titans, actually, because you're dipping into my notes for the next segment now. Yeah, it's hold on, here we go. Yeah, Rams at home, at Tennessee, at Arizona, and then Seattle at home before the bye week. And then coming out of the bye week, they go to San Francisco.
Yeah, so in theory, they could be, if they sat him for the next 4 games.
The backup has never thrown a pass.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to throw one eventually. I think they could be 3-3 into the bye week. I think they could get the Rams.
They could get Arizona.
They can get Arizona.
As long as they get second half Arizona.
Yeah, if they get second half Arizona, if they get the, okay, now we really want Caleb Williams, Arizona. I think
that's what happened. I think that yesterday or Sunday, Arizona was up on the Giants, 28-7 and everything.
And then they hit the buzzer.
As they were going to halftime, I have it on good intel that the owner called down to Rich Gannon and said, "Hey, did you watch any college football yesterday? Like, do you think Caleb is the answer, or do you think it's Drake May?" And then Gannon was like, "Shit." And he went into the locker room. He gave his little speech that wasn't very good. And then they came out in the second half and
ran exact same plays in the same order.
He knew the assignment. You know what I mean? And so it's like you getting too big for your britches
bad
over
teams.
Here.
I think bad teams are bad teams. The Giants are a good team. I don't like. Granted, I think Arizona, because like I said, we have our 0-2 team talk here shortly.
Right.
But like I said, I like the NFL this week. I'll save that piece. Atlanta's, I'm a fan of the team.
Uh-huh.
I just want them. I want them to stretch the field. I like what they did in that final drive when they went for it on 4th down to get it closer, ran more clock.
You were talking about trading Ritter like right before that drive started.
Listen, my issue is if they go down. Granted, that's 12 points. They were down 12 at home, getting the ball back.
Yeah, that was impressive.
But you're down 14 with 8 minutes ago, does Ritter and Arthur Smith, do they put together a drive that gets you that you're going to get 7 points? Because some games, we'll talk about Shador Sanders when they punt down to the 2 yard line. Dion was like, listen, I knew he's like, he's been making these plays forever. Granted, after the fact, you have all this information that he actually did make all the plays in the throw and scored a touchdown. He's like, we just need 4 good plays. That's what he said he told his line. Tom Brady coming out of a huddle. You need 2 touchdown drives. It's a tough ask. Kirk Cousins can get you 2 touchdown drives because he does throw the ball very well in clutch. He's just been playing with a bad defense. I think even a Herbert can get you a couple of points because of their ability to get you a chunk play on first down. Like that first play, we're throwing this deep post route, let it fly, and get your 40, 45-yard chunk play in these situations. Or 3rd and 17, keep the play alive, and throw that dart in the middle of the field to get you 18 yards, get a spike. I know Ritter is his second year and he's young. I just don't think the scheme allows for that. So I think at 3rd and 18, you're not going to have like Aaron Rodgers in the pocket 3rd and 18. He knows exactly where he's going with the ball. Pre-snap, I'm throwing it here. Like, you got to get here. I'll get you open. Zach Wilson, 3rd and 18. He's not gonna look pre-snap and be like, boom, I'm going here with the ball.
I don't trust Zach Wilson on 3rd and 1.
Justin Fields, but you got to like Bryce Young. Bryce Young, he's young and he's getting his lumps. But I think 3rd and 12, 3rd and 13, late in the game, I think he knows I'm gonna make this throw pre-snap. Some guys have it. I'm afraid that the coach combination won't work. I think Jordan Love looked good. I think him, Matt LaFleur, gonna look. I think they're gonna prosper throughout the year as guys come back and everyone's healthy. I think they'll look good.
So I know, obviously we don't just talk about football. So, just for a basketball thought, give me a 7-game series between the Seahawks and the Lions. Like when these two, it's electric when these two, when it's just electric. Last year, 48-45. This year, 37-31 in overtime. Check out these numbers real quick. So Geno Smith, like much beleaguered, after the game against the Rams last week. 32 for 41, 328 with 2 touchdowns. Jared Goff, 28-35, 323 with 3 touchdowns and a pick.
Interception streak snapped.
Yeah, interception streak snapped. Detroit also had 2 fumbles. Amon Ross, St. Brown, and Montgomery both had a fumble. Seattle didn't turn the ball over, but DK, oh, that's so hard. DK Metcalf, with the rib injury, so we'll see what his status looks like.
I still can't believe he slipped to the 3rd round. I know they thought people thought he had a neck injury.
He came out looking like David Boston, what I'm saying?
It's just like, I think about like McCall Hardman went in that draft. And every time I used to watch Chiefs games, I used to think to myself, can you imagine having Tyreek Hill and DK Metcalf able to run the same routes because they run the same speed? It doesn't make any sense that those
you probably still could have had Nicole.
It just I just think about that. Or take a Whiteside that Philly took.
Oh yeah,
the same draft.
Hey, so you ready for the hot take of the week?
Let's hear it.
Don't tell nobody. But Kansas City either needs to get some wide receivers, or they really, 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 really miss Eric Bieniemy. And maybe Eric Bieniemy was calling the plays, people.
He was. And like Andy Reid said it, he was like, Bieniemy's calling the plays. Like, I just think
they still don't look in sync at all. Like, they don't look anything like I'm not saying, I know year to year, there's ebbs and flows. You know what I mean? But I've never seen Kansas City look like this.
Well, I think what you've had over the last few years was that, like Kelsey, we talked about it, one play where he was running his route and he just stopped as Mahomes was throwing the ball, and he went to the sideline, and he was like, "I didn't know you were going." He's like, "For some, I don't know why I stopped." He's like, I knew you were going to stop," and it was for a touchdown. Well, they do that. They do that all the time. They just have that like, oh, the defenders here, or just turn around and
it's
I
like
should be open.
Draymond and Steph.
Same thing, Draymond and Clay. They just know exactly where that person's going to be, and they set it up. I'm not sure if Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney and MVS are on that level yet, so they might have to just dumb it down to where
right.
Patrick, you got to hit him on the first read. You got to go back to rookie or first year hit guys on their first read and build on the year because their defense was young. Chris Jones is back.
Whew, yes, he is.
So you just you have opportunity to keep it simple. You have the trickery and the tight ends. Yeah, it's just a tough ball. Like I don't know why they didn't just pay him off the rip.
Like they still ain't really pay him. Like I think it's a 1-year deal, right?
They just slid his money around.
Yeah.
They like slid his money around and gave him some candy and like a burger and was like, all right, this is your new contract. Because really, like none of it, like he didn't get any more money.
Yeah, if they didn't work out that contract, Jacksonville would have made me look like a genius. Because he came up with the sack on 4th down that pretty much ended it. He had another sack on a 4th down or like a pressure on a 4th down earlier. Jacksonville got 3 turnovers. They just couldn't do anything with it. So like, but there's 2 things that I might have to eat crow about. Like, so maybe Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen. Maybe that's the right quarterback coach combination.
What happened? What did I say last week? Stop running the ball and taking unnecessary hits.
Yes.
What did he do?
Did it. He did it. But before that,
6 for 10. Look good.
He was looking good. You know what I mean? Like
can't do any of that from the locker room.
You can't do that from the table.
Can't do that in concussion protocol.
And then the second thing that I might have to eat some crow about is, and maybe both of us will at some point this season, maybe the Rams are better than we thought they were.
They are surprisingly good.
Because like
I had them at 4-13 or something like that.
Yeah, I think I had them at 7-10, but or 6-11. But they controlled that first half against San Francisco until the last drive of the half, and then they let San Francisco go down 75 yards. And San Francisco, I feel, took the momentum at that point, said playtime's over. But up until that point, and this Puka Nacua, just broke the record, for I think it was most receptions in first 2 games. Yeah,
25, so like, right?
Yep. And then you got Tutu Atwell, who I liked a lot in college. I didn't know how he would look in the NFL. He's had a quiet first few years, but now he's starting to break out because Van Jefferson was supposed to be the new lead receiver with Cooper Kupp out, and he's been nowhere to be found. Kyron Williams, the rookie running back, Cam Akers is on his way out of there apparently. So the Rams look like they have a little core. They just got to figure out what quarterback is going to lead them beyond this season, I guess, or maybe beyond next season. But
Jameis
Stafford. Okay. Stafford's looked a lot better than, I thought coming in because I just didn't know how his arm would look coming off the surgery. That was one of the big reasons why I was down on the Rams. And of course, they like sold their defense, But they got a chance, like even if Burrow plays Monday night, the way that he's been looking.
I can't foresee a real if I just paid $260 million for you to be my quarterback for the next 3 or 4 years, I can't risk you getting hurt because you're at a 12-month rehab with an Achilles,
right?
Minimum. So that means I lose you for all of this season. I lose you all of training and minicap and OTAs and everything next season. And then you still might not be ready to go. And we're back in the same position next year where you're working yourself out of rust. in season and come working through an injury, I'd say sit him. I would sit Burrow for at least 2 games and hope you don't go 0-4.
Yeah.
Maybe you bring Andy Dalton back. I don't know if Carolina's willing to let him go. I mean, like I said, there's not a lot of quarterbacks sitting on couches that are going to come in and be saviors, but
Right.
there's a few guys throughout the league that you might be able to squeeze. Like you might be able to get Jameis out of New Orleans. I don't know what's going to cost you.
I mean, Carson Wentz still out there somewhere.
You might. Hey, Carson Wentz, his year in Indianapolis when they ran him out of town, he went 27 touchdowns and 7 picks. His problem is when it's not there, he tries to build it, and it's like, dog,
Right.
it's not there.
Right.
Just go to the next play. Go to third down. It's 2nd and 12. We get it. You want to make a play. It's not there. Throw it out of bounds, and we'll make something happen on 3rd and 12. Or it's not there on 3rd down. We'll punt it. Don't try to throw it through here, or throw it back across your body, or take an unnecessary hit. And that was 4th and 7, and you got hit for no reason. Stuff like that.
Guess who ran for 183 yards yesterday?
The Cleveland Browns.
Or not yesterday. I'm sorry, on Sunday. My bad. On Sunday, who ran for 183 yards?
183.
Yeah. The Buffalo Bills.
Oh, the whole team finally?
See what happens when you don't force it? Josh Allen, 31 of 37. 3 touchdown passes. So, obviously it was against the Raiders. But now you got something to build from. Miami, I don't want to do the hot take thing, but man, can we hurry up and get to this? Can we get to this Miami Kansas City game? I ain't talking about winning the Super Bowl or nothing. I just want to get to the Miami Kansas City game.
Everybody's big on Miami. I'm pumping my brakes on them. They gave up 34 points to the Chargers. Tua was throwing up knuckleballs. And if this offensive lineman can keep his footing off the lateral, New England has the first down and they're still driving. They go to overtime. So I get, you play to win the game, and if was 5th, we all be drunk. I'm just not sold on Miami, considering that Tua still has to throw the ball deep, and it's only so many plays you can get on film before weeks 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. People are like, okay, these are your plays. I don't know if he can't throw off platform. If it's not on time, right where it needs to be, he just doesn't have the NFL cannon to make up on the fly. Every once in a while, you have to do that in the game. Granted, not to Carson Wentz extent where you're just kind of throwing it at people, or like sometimes with these rookies looking in the middle of the field, throwing it back. But every once in a while, you're going to have to like throw it in a win. You have to throw it into a tight window. I'm not sure that he has the arm to do that. Granted, yeah, his wide receivers are open super quick, but you can figure out, you can game plan against that.
And that Christian Gonzalez interception, man, wow, and I'm not really the biggest New England guy or anything like that, but if they want me to support them, all they got to do is keep wearing them uniforms. I love those uniforms. Like I don't even like white helmets. I've been talking about white helmets all weekend. Like with the Browns were out there looking like a bootleg Miami Hurricane last night. It was driving me nuts. Like get rid of the white helmets. No more white helmets. But before we switch again, you talked about your team for a second, so I'm talking about my team for a second. So Sam Howell, what I'm saying? I see a lot of Carson Wentz in him. With a little bit of mobility from the standpoint of stop holding on to the damn ball. You know what I'm saying? Like
that is a young quarterback mistake. I don't know why. I don't know what it is.
They're just waiting for the big play to open up, I guess. But they were down 21-3, came back and outscored Denver 32-12. The offensive line still looks a little shaky. Linebackers leave a lot to be desired. We still probably need another big name or somebody that can play corner. But taking the focus off of Washington for a second, I feel like this is a weekly question that I'm going to be asking. Is Russell Wilson really as bad as people are saying, or it's just I don't think he
the
is.
expectation versus reality.
Because not even the Hail Mary, but he was he looked. I mean, he didn't throw a lot early, but when he needed to,
I don't know if he fits
to Sean
in
Payton.
Denver,
or
just something about it just doesn't look. It's like it just seemed like when Tom Brady went down to Tampa Bay, it looked like he got drafted in Tampa Bay. Like just the way he approached it, it just felt like he came in and commanded the huddle, the room, the organization. Get on my back. Yeah. This is my team. Even though the colors are different, the location is different, I'm here. I've always felt like Russell just has that. It's like that look. Remember, I told you I don't like Superman versus Batman because when the bomb went off, and if you pan across Superman's face in the courtroom, he just looked like this.
Yeah,
that's how I feel about Russ. I don't feel like he's as engaged with this team, and I think it might have stemmed back to that Broncos country let's ride, and everyone was kind of beating him up for it.
Yeah,
and I don't think his teammates really rallied around that. It should have been like the rallying cry, whatever, of the team, and I think he was trying to imprint his personality on it, and it didn't work. Right. And it just felt like he has never been connected. Because if you look at his numbers, if I told you a guy went 18 for 32, 308 passing yards, 3 touchdowns on a pick, and he ran 6 times for 56 yards, that's a good game for an NFL quarterback. Yeah, especially when it's over 30.
They win.
But because it's Sean Payton, and then he commands. Sean Payton likes to win. Sean Payton is that friend that goes out with you, and he'll be DD, and he'll, you're drunk and he'll get you in the crib, but he'll tell a story about how he did all that for you to a group of other people when you're not around. So when you pop back up, like, oh man, I heard you had a rough night last night. We talking about, oh yeah, man, Sean told us he had to do this, and this for you. And you're like, was that necessary to have that conversation? And he did it with Drew Brees too. And he did it when he was a pundit on TV. So I think what he's doing with Russ is I think he's looking at it the team doesn't want to fire me and buy me out, but they can spread Russ's dead money across whatever amount of years.
His count ain't big enough for the both of us.
And get rid of him. So I think he's like, I'm safe because they fire me. I'm getting my 20, 25 million a year for whatever the length of his contract, whatever that language is.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's a good coach. I don't think he's a good coach. People forget, he had Drew Brees, and they had a couple of 5 and 11 years in there. It's just a matter. He's a big personality. He's a Bill Parcells kind of personality, the same way Josh McDaniels is a Belichick disciple. Because if you look at his record is the same as Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Since Dallas is 2-0 and Denver's 0-2, I think that gives McCarthy
the edge.
I think it's the same exact
record. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just wild, But yeah, and before I'm gonna switch topics in a second, but before we go, we talked about the running backs and the plight of the running back. And here we got Saquon missing 3 weeks now, and now they're saying he heals fast, so he could play Thursday. But if he misses these 3 weeks, obviously kiss all those incentives goodbye. And Nick Chubb definitely wasn't a soft tissue injury.
Definitely, yeah. I've seen some clips, and I like I said, I can watch the surgery. I can't watch the injury.
I don't know why. I like watching that stuff. I don't like to see it happen, but I'm just like, wow, how did that do that?
I can sit in the operating room and watch the whole surgery. I can watch it on TV. All that
but I'm
works.
Scared.
I can't watch how you got hurt.
This is his second one, so I'm a little scared for him because he had one in college. That was like that. So
take your time, heal. You're already getting paid. I know you love football, but you got to love to walk too. So,
but I tell you what, y'all fantasy football players out there better go grab Jerome Ford because he was holding it down.
He's picked up in every league. I guarantee you, if you play fantasy football right now and you log on to whatever your thing is, he's probably picked up in 99.7% of leagues already.
Yeah, like so, but yeah, like it was just that play because like I saw it in live time or like live action or whatever, real time, and I didn't notice it. Like so, it happened, but what I heard was I heard the hit. And then I just heard
I tell you I don't want to hear.
No, you said you didn't want to see it.
I don't want to see it. I want to think about.
I just heard the crowd
running back. I can't even think about like.
I just heard the crowd go, oh, like you know what I mean. It was just like all at the same time. But hey, we got these 0-2 teams. Got Minnesota, New England, the Chargers, Denver, Cincinnati, Houston, Arizona, Carolina, Chicago. So I'm gonna just go ahead and let you know I eliminated Chicago, Carolina, Arizona, and Houston from this conversation because I ain't got no hope for them. But I was mad at myself because remember I had texted you and I was like, yo, who are you thinking about? Like, because I got some teams that I'm thinking about. And when I messaged you that, I was such a dumbass because I was like, it's gotta be the Colts because Anthony oh, they're not 0-2. So I had to go back to the drawing board all over again. Yeah. So I'm gonna let you go ahead. Like so out of these 0-2 teams, which one do you have confidence in?
All right. The first team that I have confidence in is the Patriots. I think their conference has winnable games because the Jets have quarterback questions, and I don't think there's a guy sitting on the couch realistically that they can bring in and make changes.
Go ahead and call Mark Sanchez.
I mean, RG3 threw his name in a hat.
Yeah, get out of here.
The other day. I mean, like I said, realistically, Jameis Winston, this is like the only starter that I can think of that's
where Andy Dalton at these days.
Andy Dalton's in Carolina. I think they pretty much probably want to keep him.
Yeah.
Maybe you try to get Cooper Rush from Dallas, but I don't know.
Where's Mason Rudolph at?
Mason Rudolph is still in Pittsburgh. Where's Trubisky? Is Trubisky on a team?
That's a good question.
So if you don't have Trubisky, maybe. But like I said, I like the Patriots. Though. Yeah, I got the Patriots because I think they can beat the Jets twice because of quarterback play. I think they can steal one from Buffalo because
Josh will give it away.
Josh and McDermott will give one away, and Bill.
All they need is like 30-mile-an-hour winds to beat Buffalo, right?
I think they'll beat Buffalo in a game 20. They'll beat them like 24-20, something like that. Like one of those games where New England just runs the ball, plays good, solid defense. I think Mac looks good. I think Mac looks comfortable.
He looks better than than I gave him credit for.
Yeah, I think it's just not translated to wins, which might be frustrating. But they are a toe drag away from being in position to beat Philly in Week 1, and they are an extra step before that offensive lineman falls, before they convert that fourth down. So they are in games. I think they have to find a way to get these points early and find out who's your playmaker that you can get the ball to early. You need to steal a touchdown, like similar to how Garrett Wilson got that slant against Dallas and just took it to the house. You see the steal one like that because you're at a disadvantage because your skill position players are either young or Juju's a natural 2. And then you play tight ends. Tight ends aren't going to really give you big plays down the field. You're going to need Keyshawn or Bourne to like just catch a team in the zero coverage and just take that slant to the house early in the game. That something along those lines. But I have faith that they'll be able to figure it out because I have faith in the coach. I think the quarterback has confidence and the coach has competence. So I think that's I was leaning towards the Chargers. But like I said, I don't know if the hangover of blowing that 27-point lead has rinsed off just yet. Because that final drive against Miami, when they were down 36-31, they got the ball back. It Miami just blitzed them like 3-4 times in a row, and they never really adjusted. And I watched most of that game because that was the week I had like 4 games on. That one was on the TV at the iPad, and I don't recall Miami doing anything like that early in the game. But that particular drive, after they got the ball back, they just sent the house at Herbert, and they didn't really adjust. And then you said last week with Staley with the timeouts and losing to Tennessee, which they don't even score. They don't score points generally. You give up 27 points. So I'm down on the Chargers. I don't have them completely written off because I think they'll get a couple wins against the Raiders. I think Denver is another team that's in that 0-2 spot, and there's the quarterback coach cohesiveness is just almost non-existent. So I think that's another opportunity for them to get points.
Yeah, where does Denver go this weekend?
What we got?
They go to Miami.
So to Miami, I mean, it is the NFL. Anything can happen.
Right.
But 0-3.
Yeah. So
then they get two breaks. I don't want to call them breaks, but they're at Chicago and then they're home
back
for the Jets
before they go to Arrowhead. Yeah, so that's what I did kind of to start it off. I looked at the next 5 games for these teams. So New England's next 5 games at the Jets, at Dallas, at home against the Saints, at the Raiders, and then Buffalo. The Chargers go to Minnesota, so we'll find out one of these answers real quick. They get the Raiders, they get their bye week coming out of the bye. They get Dallas and then go to Arrowhead, so I don't like that. And then they get Chicago and at the Jets. Denver, gets at Miami, at Chicago, the Jets, and at the Chiefs,
at Kansas City.
Yeah,
Green Bay, then back to Kansas City. Bay at Kansas City comes in, then Buffalo. Yeah,
I don't like Denver.
Denver's
because you got to look at the schedule.
Yo, it could be bad.
Oh yeah, it could be bad. They could be like 2-7 or something like that.
It could be bad because if we want to give them, if we go to next 6 weeks, I'm gonna go 0-3 Miami, 1-3, 2-3, 2-4. Green Bay
toss up, but they could beat Green Bay though.
So benefit of the doubt, I give them 3-5, 3-6, 3-7 when they get to Minnesota November 19th, or Minnesota comes there. So they're 3-7 after the Monday night game at Buffalo. Everyone's watching. I think that could be the game. If they leave that game 3-7, then they're running. They're starting another quarterback for the final 7 games.
Jarrett Stidham, call him up. So like I was looking at this. The reason I had messaged you was because I was thinking about New England as well. And part of the reason I was thinking about New England was I looked at the schedule, and it's not about the schedule that's coming up. It's about the schedule that they've already played. So, like, those 2 games are probably the toughest 2 games anybody in the NFL has played this season. Because we're going into week 3 now. So, like, Philly, granted, they were at home. That was the positive part. But playing Philly and Miami back-to-back was probably the toughest 2-game stretch that anybody has had so far. So, you would like to think coming out of that, they'll be fine. And they get the Jets this week. So, they should be fine. But I landed.
It's got Dallas on the first.
Yeah,
so that's gonna be a tough game. That's a one that I think that has them 1-3.
So Denver, to your point, not only is Denver liable to be 3-7 or whatever, but when you look at these 2 games that they played that both were winnable, they missed 2 kicks against the Raiders, 2 field goals, and lost by 1. And then they blew a 21-3 lead against Washington Sunday. So those are two tough losses to take with a new coach coming into the building.
Yeah, but I don't think the conversation in the building is, hey, we just need to tighten this up, We're 2-0. I don't think that's the conversation. I think the conversation is because you didn't do your job, we're 0-2.
You didn't do you didn't execute.
And it's not even Peyton directing it at Russell. I think just collectively, I don't know if I think there's more optimism in New England at 0-2, even though Bill is big on doing your job.
Well, Mac Jones has looked a lot better
than it is in Denver.
Because he has an actual coordinator now, an actual offensive coordinator now.
Yeah.
But so I came down to LA and Minnesota. Those were my two teams that I was butting heads against to figure out the answer to this question. And that's why it's so weird, because they play each other this weekend. But
0-2-1.
But this is what I was thinking about, right? I'm gonna go somewhere different with this one. I was thinking about luck. And room to improve. Because Minnesota this season, you ready for this one?
I'm listening.
And these two games that they've played against Philadelphia and Tampa Bay, they have ran for a total of 69 yards. So you got to, hey, how can we improve? Figure out how to run the ball. Number two, luck. Because not only do you need skill, not only do you need players, but you need luck. So the Chargers, played Miami week 1, lost by 2, lost in overtime to Tennessee. We talked about all the stuff with Staley, right? But the Chargers haven't committed a turnover yet this season.
Correct.
In these first 2 games. Justin Herbert, no interceptions. So, they're protecting the ball so far. But this is the NFL. Minnesota, on the other hand, from a luck standpoint, in these 2 games that they've played, 7 turnovers.
7 turnovers.
Yep. So Kirk Cousins with the pick, and they've had 6 fumbles. And I don't know how many teams fumble 6 times, lose 6 fumbles over the course of 2 games.
They lost a fumble on the kickoff, on the punt return. It was a good punt return, too, against Philly.
Yep.
Basically just gave, I think they fumbled it. I think he
don't forget Justin Jefferson fumbled it in the end zone.
Fumbled out of the back of the end zone, which changed because Philly went down and got points.
Yep.
That's why you don't reach the ball out.
They might win that game with that play. Game of inches, right? Because he was at the 1 and the ball went over the pylon.
If he tucks that ball in, then it's 1st and goal from the 1-inch line.
Yep.
And then maybe they throw you a fade, you still get your touchdown.
Yeah.
But he still had I think he had 11 receptions, 160 yards. He still had a monster game against Philly.
Yeah.
I think they'll be all right. I like Brian Flores as defensive coordinator. I think he'll figure it out. I think he'll tighten it up over the next couple of weeks.
I'm just looking at Minnesota schedule here because apparently I forgot to write it down. But looking at Minnesota schedule, here we go. So looking at Minnesota schedule, they get the Chargers at home this week. So if they could pull that off, they go to Carolina. They get the Chiefs at home. They go to Chicago. They play the 49ers, and then they go to Green Bay. So that's a little tough. But
they can be 3-3 after the Chicago game.
They can be 3-3. Then you get a toss-up at Atlanta, a toss-up with the Saints, a toss-up at Denver. You get the Bears again. You get the bye week. You get the Raiders coming out of the bye week, before you get to Cincinnati and then, Green Bay and Detroit. And depending on where Green Bay is at that time of year, we don't know yet, But so I went with Minnesota because I feel like the luck has been going against them. And I feel that as the season goes on, their defense will improve with Flores from game to game.
Yeah, and I think Kirk Cousins is playing better at his position. I think the chemistry he has with the coach is better, and the chemistry he has with his number 1 wide receiver. Because in LA, who is the number 1 wide receiver?
Keenan Allen.
Is it?
I think so. I mean, he had both the touchdowns yesterday.
So.
He had both the touchdowns yesterday.
That's what I'm saying. You think so, but he's out so often that he builds a rapport with Mike Williams
With
in those
Mike,
weeks that he's
yeah,
out.
yeah,
Whereas even if you look at Atlanta, the number one wide receiver is Drake London. If you
right.
look in Minnesota, number one is Justin Jefferson. Not only is he the number one by position, he's a favorite target. Philly's kind of having that problem because they have Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. I think AJ Brown is the number one, but Dallas Goedert might be Jalen's favorite target.
Yeah.
And then
And
Devontae Smith is probably his favorite matchup because he is the number two guy and he probably doesn't get that role coverage the way AJ Brown does. AJ Brown wants the ball. So I just think that those kind of
Jordan
relationships.
Addison's been looking good too, and he's come in hit off with a high start. 2 games in, so like I said,
No
I hate
need to
using
panic. There's no need to
no no no
panic
no.
for most of these teams. Some of these teams
I
you can
hate
just basically write their season as a learning experience. Texans, you're
I just hate
learning.
trying to use stats because
I
these
don't
things are going
use
to flip.
stats this early.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
I use
Here's a
comfort and
stat for you.
flow and what looks
So
sustainable.
so it's one thing to say that Joe Burrow is injured. It's one thing to say that Joe Burrow doesn't look right. It's another thing when you see that Joe Burrow is complete 56.9% of his passes.
Well, I mean, if you can't plant your back foot
Yeah.
and let it
But
fly,
that just tells me how serious the injury might be, that like they're probably thinking like, oh, it's a calf, like he'll get through it. But obviously there's something more there.
or I mean, you got to keep in mind they played 2 tough games. I mean, Cleveland had 4 turnovers last night and only lost by 4 points.
Yeah.
And 2 of them went for touchdowns. So it's like I think Cleveland's defense is probably better than advertised. Baltimore's defense is always what it is, and they lost. They lost their game to Baltimore by a field goal. Granted, maybe
And,
it probably wasn't that close. Um, I think Jamar Chase not getting that many targets, not that many catches.
yeah, 5 catches for 31 yards, and T. Higgins with the 2 touchdowns.
So he's doing
You
enough. I think it's just a matter of like it just might be you just ran into 2 tough teams early, and you might be a little banged up. So you're
no,
at the
I don't
point
think
like
it's that though, because like I said, because like to me, like Cleveland, like I don't know. Like a lot of people were trying to use the weather as an excuse for that game. I'm not going to use the weather
Cleveland played
because
in the same weather.
yeah, Cleveland played in the same weather, and like I said, Deshaun Watson still doesn't. It just doesn't look right.
Cleveland has a good defense. Like I said,
They do. They do.
They gave up. I mean, good defense in the NFL is I won't say it's hard to find, but most defenses are opportunistic and they get the tip passes a la Detroit. Detroit's a good pass rush.
That
Most
interception
teams don't.
Pittsburgh got to start the game last night.
Yeah, so it's like you need a little, like I said, you need a little luck every once in a while, and sometimes it's a matter of you play 2 division opponents in back-to-back weeks, and your quarterback didn't play most of training camp, so it's going to be some rust. Like I said, he only had 82 yards in the first game, and the weather was
Right.
pretty bad. But
Right.
bad weather games are because of this new, I don't say new passing offense, but with the NFL game plan being so encapsulated with throwing the ball that you got to run it. I went to my son's JV game. It was rainy yesterday. They were going 5 wide. I'm like, we're playing on a grass football field. It's pouring down raining, and you're going 5 wide. What happens? Ball goes through the wide receiver's hands. Cornerback picks it, runs it down. Other team gets a touchdown. Like, run the ball in the rain. You can make it happen. You just have to be committed to running the ball in the rain, especially when your quarterback's kind of injured. So you have to make that conscious decision to run the ball. Cincinnati is a team they have championship aspirations, so I think that's why this being 0-2 for them is tough. But I don't think it's gonna
But they've been there
drop
before. Like
them.
I said, they
They're
started
just
off
in a
0-2
tough
last year.
division.
Right.
Yeah, they're just in a tough division to where you don't go on 7-8 game runs in the NFL often. It definitely doesn't happen year to year. You won't have multiple teams doing it. 9-8 is going to be that's going to be the record of a lot of teams in the playoffs out of the
In the
14
AFC,
teams.
yeah.
It's going to be a few teams that squeak in at 9-8 or 10-7 with a point differential like +12 or something like that, like the way.
Right. So before we get out of here,
yeah,
go ahead.
It won't be too crazy.
Well, I was gonna say before we get out of here, real quick, what's Thursday night look like?
Thursday night. What do I have?
Giants at 49ers.
This I like Brock Purdy. I think he might be as good as advertised.
Well, I think he needs to work on that deep ball. Like he looked like how you said Quinn Ewers looked against Rice.
Yeah, he might. I love his attitude. Like, for instance, that's the difference. When something good happens in San Francisco and you put the camera on Brock Purdy, you know something good just happened. Something good happens in Denver and you put the camera on Russell Wilson, you have no idea what happened. Tom Brady throws a touchdown. He's fist pumping. He might be slapping the referee on the ass. I mean, something's happening. There's some energy there. Sometimes that's all you need. You just need you. That's why you need an energy play. Colorado got it with the turnover when they were like against Colorado State with a tight end, and they hit them because they're about to go on for another score. They granted Colorado didn't come back and score, but they got the crowd back into it.
Right.
You know, that energy. I think Brock Purdy, the team believes in him. If you look at the clips from the NFC Championship game, and Fred Warner was like, "What's up with Purdy? What happened? Where's Purdy? What happened to Purdy? What's up with Purdy? What's up? What's going on with Purdy? What happened with Purdy?" Like he was asking like multiple people, like frantically, like, "Yo, what's going on with our guy?" You could tell that's energy, and like it does, and it's deflating when he gets hurt because you know his energy resonates throughout the entire team. And
right.
this is a all pro defensive linebacker worried about this young quarterback. Like it was, you could tell like it was like very frantic in his voice. I don't think people care if Russell Wilson steps back on the field. I'm not sure if
well, Russell Wilson had people defenders yelling at him coming to the sidelines last season.
Last year, yeah. The Melvin Gordon look, that meme.
Yeah.
We know what that look means. It wasn't like sometimes you can just kind of catch. We know what that look means. And I think that's the difference. Staley, I'm not sure if the players are responding to him, but I think D'Amico Ryans' players are responding to him. I think Kevin O'Connell and Minnesota's players are responding to him. I think Mike McDaniels, granted he's 2-0, but you could tell because they had a stretch last year where they lost a few games, but they turned it back around. I think it's just a matter of belief, and I'm not sure that the Broncos are going to be able to turn that around. I think the Bengals have it because they went to the Super Bowl. They went to the AFC Championship last year. They beat Kansas City in the regular season. They beat Buffalo in the playoffs. So they beat the teams that they feel as of right now are their competition.
Right.
You can get Cleveland the next time around. Like Cleveland is a team that's not going to get better. Like they're not going to get better offensively as the season goes on. Because if they lose weapons and Deshaun Watson's not getting any better, like he doesn't look more fluid. Looks like he's under duress the whole time. He looks a lot like the way Justin Fields looks. Just like with just more experience. Like, yo, you should be getting rid of that ball. You shouldn't get 2 face mask penalties. It's just things like that. I think by the time as the quarterback, I've never seen a running back get that. And then he like slung them out. I mean, it just was a little reckless. So I think Cincinnati will be able to turn it around. The Chargers, I'm not sure if they have faith in the squad. I know New England's going to be ready every week.
Yeah, even if they don't turn it around, they're still going to be a tough out.
They're going to be a tough out every single
all
week.
Season long. Yeah,
you're gonna make that mistake. You're gonna fumble, and he's Belichick's going to take
either going to be
goal.
The best team. They're either going to turn it around and get close to the wild card, or they're going to be the best 6-11 team we ever saw.
Best 7-10 team we've seen in league history since we gone to 17 games.
Yeah.
So like I said, we got the Cardinals. They're tanking. I think the Vikings can turn around because their division is, I want to say winnable, but they're going to be in a position where they can steal a couple of games.
Yeah, I mean they're 0-2 right now, but division. Detroit and
Green Bay are 1-1.
Green Bay are both 1-1. Yeah, like you know what I mean.
And each one of those teams are gonna, each one of them is gonna give you a game on their home field.
Right.
So.
Whereas Denver got Kansas City in front of them, but Denver's also
already got a division loss. And they already lost to the Raiders.
Right.
At home.
Yeah.
And now they got to go to Vegas. And I've been to Vegas, and I don't know what kind of curfew players have when they go to Vegas. Because that was one of the things I was worried about. when they would talk about moving teams to Vegas, we'll talk about that when we do the NBA expansion too. It's like you can get into some stuff in Vegas. Like if there's not a strict curfew with security guards, and when do they go? So the so that's December 10th. No, hold on.
Are you talking for the tournament?
No, I'm talking about
when they go play the Raiders.
They go play the Raiders in January after New Year's. So their season could be over.
Yeah. So for all intents and purposes, I think it will be.
It'll be over. So it's like you gave up. The win you needed was this first one. You needed to set a tone because the next time you play, so you got a division game against Kansas City,
and 2 weeks apart.
2 weeks apart, and then you get the Chargers in week 14, and then you don't get them again until 17 and 18.
Yeah, so you could be 0-3 in division before you even get to Las Vegas.
And then your season can be over week 14 by the time you get to play your fourth division game.
Right.
So it's like you're going to have all these different factors laid out. I think Denver's probably going to be one of the more disappointing teams. They might end up being in the hunt for one of these top quarterbacks in the draft, one of these 3 or 4 or 5 picks.
Maybe.
I don't know if anybody else trades away for Russell Wilson or anything like that. I don't think anyone I don't want to call it a mistake, but I can't see they're 0. If they were 2-0, it would be like a disappointing 2-0 because it's like you could tell they would probably still want to get rid of Russ.
Right.
But his record is going to be like, well, he's 2-0, and then don't let them mess around and beat Miami and Chicago. Now they're 2-2, coming back home to play the Jets.
All right, last thing before we get out of here, just a random question. Who's this mystery team in the East that's getting into the Dame Lillard conversation?
I haven't been privy to that because the only thing I heard was that the Miami situation is.
Yeah, there was a story that came out yesterday that there's a mystery team.
It has to be Philly.
Yeah, I was thinking either Philly or just as a surprise. If it's not Philly, I was thinking Toronto. But I just can't see anybody else. Like, it wouldn't be Boston.
The money. So the money has to match. So that would be Philly sending Harden and another guy that makes about 12 or 14 million.
Yeah.
To Portland for Dame. That's what I'm saying. Like somebody that makes around that money. Because I think
Maxey and Tobias?
Harden's signed. He opted in. Was it 35,
34 or something like that? Yeah, somewhere around there.
Somewhere in that range. Dame is probably sitting at 44, 46 in this part of it because his extension.
Yeah, because it goes up to 60 at some point.
Yeah, I guess it's 60. So I think this might be. So this might be his $50 million year. So you got to throw in Tobias Harris and James Harden for Dame Lillard. It seems like a terrible trade, but I think just for the sake of getting each group out of your hair,
right?
Just leave your ego at the door, sit down at the table at this boardroom, make this meeting, make this deal happen, or not necessarily that particular deal, but make a deal happen,
right?
Versus just letting it drag into the season. We're about to hit October here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, because the Clippers have officially pulled out of the James Harden sweepstakes. So
because it's probably you know what it is. Daryl Morey is probably. Jeff T tells a story like he's slowly low key becoming like the best like NBA storyteller. Yeah. Like his cadence, his voice is just dope. So if you get a chance to see him, I forgot what the podcast is called, but he tells a lot of stories. He talked about how Danny Ferry was his GM when he was in Atlanta, and he was a restricted free agent. And he said Danny Ferry told him like, listen, I don't like you. I don't like the way you play. I don't like your haircut. Whatever. And he was like, fine, I don't like you either. So he talked to Milwaukee, got a deal done, called up Danny Ferry. He's like, listen, man, I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't like the way you walk. I don't like how tall you are. I don't like your bald head. I don't like your hands. I don't like the way you dress. I don't like anything about you. He was like, all right, cool, fine. He goes to, he waited at midnight for Milwaukee to send over the paperwork because that's when it was official. He said 12:04. Danny Ferry called me. He was like, See you in Atlanta, because he was a restricted free agent. So he basically just matched the
he
offer. But
matched
he was
it.
like,
Yeah.
he's like, that's how business goes. So it's just like that's the thing with the NBA is like, I'm gonna do the best thing for my team, regardless if I like you or not. So Daryl Morey might not care that James Harden called him a liar. He's like, I'm still running operations here for the 76ers.
Right.
So if you as a player are gonna give me the best chance to win, I'm gonna keep you. And if you don't play, I won't pay you. So you're kind of over the barrel. He was over the like James Harden should have been playing harder this past season so that somebody else could see, like, maybe, oh, you're playing because it's a contract year. The same thing with Kyrie Irving. It's like, oh, he's playing that because it's a contract year. Maybe, maybe not. But do you want to pass up on the fact that he does look good? He does look like he has 2 or 3 more good years in him, and you can get him for $42 million a year, or whatever that number is. Do you want to just pass that up because you think he's only doing it because it's a contract year?
Yep. And if nothing else, sell some tickets.
Exactly.
But folks,
bunch of beer t-shirts.
Yes. That's Mr. Logical.
I
am 25. Please like, share, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. It's free.
Tell your grandma.
Tell your
she
grandma.
Got Spotify.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm about to be in this throwback that'll make her glance, And so, we'll be back on Thursday previewing the college football weekend, previewing the NFL weekend. I'm looking forward to watching San Francisco smash the Giants. But
hopefully my Amazon isn't 10 seconds behind Mike because he doesn't keep the big plays.
I be trying. Like, I'm too
doing stuff like this.
I get too excited.
Ooh,
you know what I'm saying?
Ooh, that's ooh.
Nah, I get too excited. I'm gonna work on that though. That's that's gonna be my New Year resolution. You know what I'm saying? But I gotta do it before New Year's. So, it'll work out, but thank you everybody for the support, the love, the views, all that good stuff. We'll see you in a few days. Peace.